with the word of prayer. Lord God, we praise you once again for your gift of today. We are grateful for your mercies, new every morning. Thank you for protecting us, for watching over us at all times. As Peter reminds us, for the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. We do humbly seek for your peace, despite the uncertainties. Kindly show us how to pursue the truth. Allow us to have more opportunities to draw near to you. Please be our refuge and our strength. Open our minds to see your glory, and may we never lose hope as we count on your promises every single day. Amen. Good morning. Let me turn you over to Dr. Liu for some remarks.
Thank you, Mrs. Beha, and thank you, Mr. Griffin, for all the effort, and thank you for the MAK speakers today. What a glorious day today that the Lord has made. This is our second debate. Today we switch sides. MAK is the proposition side that for evolution is a fact, and NSYSU is the opposition side that evolution is a fiction. All the rules apply. I want to reiterate that each speaker has 2 minutes, and the timer will go up at 1 minute and 45 seconds. And being on the internet, there might be some delay, so we show some grace, allow time lapse, but nevertheless, we follow the same rule. Just be mindful that we're on the internet, so you need to be clear in your pronunciation, and I just wish a success for every speaker. So let the show begin. First, proposition constructive.
Okay, to start us off, I'll first talk about pesticide resistance. It describes how susceptible pesticides is to pests that used to be effective. And right now, we believe that through evolution, it is through natural selection they just survive and pass on heritable changes to their offspring, which makes them immune to some pesticides. For some examples, farmers in the US lost about 7% of the crops in 1940s to pests, yet in 1980 and 1990s, they lost up to 13% of crops to pests, even though they used even more pesticide. This is just another example of how an overuse of something causes immunity to spawn through natural selection of a species. This is further backed up by genetic variation, which shows that small changes in DNA can happen within one species like this. And then my teammates will further explain this.
First, opposition constructive.
My name is Lee. I think the theory of evolution is a vision. Darwin mentioned in his theory of evolution. The human evolves start from that. But I think that a lot of doubts. I will explain from two aspects. That is unscientific for humans to evolve from gaps. First, we know that translational puzzle can help us understand how species evolve and make us great in theory of evolution. However, we have no any translational puzzle can help us, and we have no any translational in 200,000 years between and enterprise. This leads us to find that human evolved from apes. The least translational puzzle that should easy in theory disappear. The second point is how do only humans work on two legs? Evolve from 4 legs to 2 leg walking is mentioned in the theory of evolution. that the evolution of species is directly affected by the environment. So humans evolved into working on two feet under the influence of the environment. How did other species live in the same environment as humans evolved to work on two feet? Thank you.
Okay. First, opposition rebuttal.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Soil. My teammate has presented two suspects that humans evolved from apes. Why haven't we found transitional fossils, and why are only humans walking on 2 feet? Next, I will add two other dots to explain why I think the theory of evolution is a fiction. Nowadays, we are all talking about global warming, but that's only since the Industrial Revolution. If we look at the Earth's temperature over the last 5 million years, starting with Darwin's statement that humans evolved from apes, we can observe, instead of a warming trend, we can observe the Earth has gone through many ice ages. There are even incidents like younger dryers that cause the Earth's temperature to drop rapidly. So in this context, if humans evolved from apes, how did they lose their thick fur? And does the cold environment make them lose fur? This is obviously unscientific and unreasonable. Another suspect is that fossil degeneration is not present in other animals. Scientists have found that apes have more muscle than humans. I think evolution should make species more adaptable and stronger. So why are humans different from other animals in this aspect? So did the humans really evolve from apes? Through the above two additional dots, I think the theory of evolution is a fiction. Thank you.
First, proposition rebuttal.
Let's start. Good morning, honorable judges and worthy opponents. My name is Jonathan, and today my team and I will speak about why we believe that Darwin's evolution theory is a fact. Meanwhile, I was speaking about why natural selection is true, the formation of DNA and RNA, as well as the archaeological finding of Lucy, which is an ape found in East Africa. First off, my opponents on the fiction side may say that there isn't a direct proof for the existence of natural selection, but this is simply not true. There are several examples of natural selection in which we can observe. Some examples include the mice adaptation and butterfly mimicry, which my teammate Sean will be further elaborating on, as well as an example of deer mice, which I personally will be speaking about. Deer mice are a type of rodent that are found in environments such as prairies and bushy areas. But there is an exception when deer mice are in environments that are typically cooler and sometimes have glaciers. The deer mice appear to change their original skin color of brown into a whiter skin color. It is also proven that deer mice in cooler environments have more viable offspring. Next, my opponents may try to disprove the theory of evolution by saying that the formation of DNA and RNA cannot have been formed due to the fact that the environmental conditions were too harsh. For example, UV light, high methane, etc. But according to an article written by NCBI, RNA and DNAs are found rather after the formation of cell membranes, which therefore provides a relatively more stable and confined condition for the formation of nucleotides. Therefore, this opposes the argument that conditions were too harsh for RNA and DNA to form. Lastly, a fossil named Lucy or Australopithecus was found in Ethiopia on November 24, 1974. According to a study done by Institute of Human Origins, Lucy's vertebrae was extremely different from all other apes. The vertebrae was curved inwards, making it able for her to stand upright just like humans. In conclusion, I believe that Darwin's evolution theory is true,
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Second proposition, constructive.
I have to take off my. A characteristic that can greatly impact an organism's survival is camouflage. Without camouflage, prey can easily be seen by predators, which increases their chance of being eaten. Because of this, prey with the correct camouflage to their environment has a significantly higher chance of survival. Being able to pass down the trait. Over time, the population should shift towards the color of the environment. An example can be seen among the populations of the rock pocket mice. Some areas that had lava flow turned the floor into a dark and tarred color. We usually only see dark-colored mice in these areas, since the light-colored mice would stand out in the dark background. And we can also usually see only dark-colored mice in the sandy and unaffected ground, since they would also stand out in the background. And another way an organism can survive better in the environment is through mimicry, which is when a group of organisms show the same trait as another group of organisms. An example of this mimicry can be found between different butterfly families, the Ithomini and Dysmorphini. The Ithomini butterfly is unpalatable or non-edible. So after a few of them being eaten, the predators would naturally learn to avoid these types of butterflies. The Dysmorphini butterflies takes advantage of this. Because the Dysmorphini looks very similar to the unpalatable Ithomini, predators would also naturally avoid the Dysmorphini. So within the group of Dysmorphini, those who look more similar to the Ithomini would survive, and the ones who don't will usually get eaten, unless their color gives them some camouflage or also mimics another unpalatable or dangerous organism.
Second opposition, constructive.
I doubt the correctness of modern evolution theory because I found out that it is difficult to use the concept of modern evolution theory to explain the evolution of flagellum. Flagellum can control the motion of bacteria and has very precise and complicated structure. Each flagellum is made of more than 40 different proteins. And if any part of this system is missing, which may cause the malfunction of the whole system, it is unlikely that such a precise and complicated structure evolved just from one or few genetic mutations. And if the advocates of modern evolution theory said that this stuff evolves progressively, then how can a lot of malfunctioning and useless parts of this system continue to evolve and survive from natural selection? Furthermore, each mutation has thousands of possibilities to form the other different and useless structure and survive from natural selection. Why does the unfinished and useless parts of this system has higher chance to survive from natural selection instead of other possibilities?
Second opposition, rebuttal.
I'm Ethan Liang. In supplement to the previous anti-evolution speaker, I don't believe in the theory of evolution. Some of the arguments that have been mentioned in the theory of evolution are that the mutation that occurs in evolution is random and has no duration. Each mutation has very low chance to become useful. Because each mutation has hundreds or thousands of possibility of chance due to the mutation non-regular change, then the chance of developing the complicated and functional structure should be extremely low. If you say that the using structure disease because those structures degenerated from their ancestor and they don't have to use this using structure anymore, then how can you explain a lot of using structure for flagellum? If you it is possible that a simple usage structure continue to evolve to a complicated structure and then okay, that's it.
Okay. Second opposition response.
So, in Darwin's theory, natural selection maneuvers the course of evolution. There are several pieces of evidence given by Darwin, such as the birds on island Galapagos and the fossils of common horses. The opposing team might state that fossils can't be a direct evidence to prove the existence of natural selection. Therefore, I would like to present evidence on present-day human body that proves the existence of natural selection. In human bodies, there are parts of non-functional organs, called remnant organs or vestigial organs. These are signs of organs that degenerate through time because of lack of use. For example, the coccyx or the tailbone, which is the last proportion of our vertebrae. Evidence provided by scientist T.W. Sadler states that the coccyx is a remnant of a tail. In the embryo of humans, there is presence of a full tail, but it degenerates before birth. Throughout the process of evolution, the tail proves unnecessary because we now reside on plains rather than a forest. This is evidence proving that evolution eliminates parts of redundant organs, or else we would still have a prominent tail similar to a monkey. Another proof for evolution are web fingers noticed in human embryology. The presence of web fingers indicates that humans used to live in aquatic environments. Throughout time, humans moved on land and web fingers prove unnecessary. Therefore, they degenerate through birth as well. In addition, web fingers also prove the existence of natural selection, as the flexibility of the fingers would decrease due to the webs. Therefore, the degeneration of unwanted organs makes humans fear living in a present environment, which also coincides with Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest.
The third proposition, constructive.
In this constructive, I will be giving evidence based on homologous structure, proving that all species and living things come from a common ancestor, known as luca. We are stating that if two or more species share a unique physical feature, such as complex bone structure, they may all have inherited this feature from a common ancestor. As you can see from this diagram, there are 6 major components of our arm and hands: the humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. And just look at how similar these structures are from 6 different species of animals. The turtles, bats, dogs, whales, humans, and even the dolphins have 5 fingers bones at the tip, even though some have fins, hands, or wings, and look completely different from the outside. In the inside, they are almost the same. They have just adapted to their surrounding environment to help them survive. Not only you can see the similarity in the arm structure, you can also see it in the cervical vertebrae or the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae in different species of mammals. Nearly all mammals have the same number of cervical vertebrae, no matter how long or short their neck are. As you can see in this diagram, a long-necked giraffe to a neckless whale both have exactly 7 cervical vertebrae, along as the other mammals, including humans, mice, platypus, etc. You can also see consistency in the number of thoracic and lumbar vertebrae. The majority of mammals have 19 or 20 of these vertebrae. Again, not mattering how large or small these mammals are. So all these homologous structures have proven that even though we look completely different from the outside, from each other, we have still kept the common traits from our common ancestor luca. Thank you.
The third opposition, constructive.
I don't agree with evolution theory because it is not supported by direct fossil evidence. One is lack of evidence One is lack of evidence that can prove the evolution of complex organs. According to evolution theory, simple organisms have transformed into complex organisms through a series of gradual and continual changes. It is true we would have seen the development of organs being preserved in fossils as many transitional structures. However, there are no fossil collections that recorded such a thing. Another thing is lack of evidence that could prove macroevolution. For example, invertebrates are supposed to have transformed into vertebrates, passing through many intermediate stages. But there are no fossils of intermediate species, and the same goes for the evolution of amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Since there is no empirical evidence to prove the sequential changes in organisms, evolution theory should not be taken for a fact. Thank you.
The third opposition rebuttal.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lioness. I want to continue my partner's topic. Although evolutionary maps have been drawn for horses and monkeys, most of them cannot be correlated. When it comes to the part about transitional fossils, there are no transitional fossils of any current age that have been found today. Teaching a famous evolutionist say of the missing fossils. The surprising thing is that there is a pattern of fossils. Fossils are missing in all important parts. The fossils are missing in all important places. Here I will give two examples. The difference between fish and amphibians lies in the spine. In other words, for fish to evolve into an amphibian, its spine must be supplemented by pelvis, but there is no fossil record of how the amphibian pelvis evolved from the fish. However, there is no fossil record to prove how the pelvis of amphibian evolved from fish. In addition, Darwin has cited the example of giraffe, whose necks were too short to survive because they could not eat leaves. However, we have not yet found any giraffe fossil with the neck. There are only 2/3 or 3/4 of their recent length, and many transitional fossils have yet to be found. Since there is no empirical evidence to confirm the sequential changes in organisms, evolution theory should not be taken for a fact. I don't agree with evolution theory because it is not well supported by fossil evidence. Thank you.
The third proposition rebuttal.
Good morning. My name is Amy, and our team strongly believes evolution is fact and not
You're
fiction.
muted.
Oh, okay. Good morning. My name is Amy, and our team strongly believes evolution is fact and not fiction. I would like to present a rebuttal. The opposition side might say analogous structures do not support evolution. Analogous structures are structures that work similarly in function but do not share the same evolutionary line. For example, moths, birds, and insects have analogous structures because they all have body parts that allow them to fly. Analogous structures are the effects of animals adapting to their environment, which is convergent evolution. Since we can observe physical structures being affected by the natural environment, it is evolution. Some people may argue that homologous structures are not real or that they don't point to evolution. However, Pierre Baudin, a naturalist in the early 1500s, wrote a book about homologous structures. He made a comparison between the skeletons in birds and humans, marking the homologous bones he found. His book was one of the works that laid the foundation for the idea of comparative anatomy, which is evidence for evolution. An example of homologous structures are vestigial structures. They're structures that seem to serve no function in the body, but that resemble structures with functional roles in related organisms. They're remnants of an ancestral form. An example of vestigial structures is the pelvic bone on a whale or snake. They serve no purpose in their own bodies nowadays, but they are homologous to the pelvis of a dog or human, which means they share the common ancestor. Some may argue that there were no transitional species from water to land animals. However, paleontologists in recent years found a species called Tiktaalik that helped fill the transitional species gap from water to land animals. The Tiktaalik's bone structure could support itself either in shallow water or on land, and its fins, it could be observed that there were similar bone structures that primitive land-dwelling animals also had. Thank you.
The fourth proposition, constructive.
The last universal common ancestor, or luca, was the start of a long lineage that encapsulates all life on Earth. The point of luca is to show how all living creatures on Earth were connected to one organism, and how we evolved into unique creatures. We do this by following the genes. A theory hypothesized by Jim Lake at UCLA in 1984 claimed that the tree of life had two branches, bacteria and archaea. There are a few ways to find connections between life as we know it and luca. One way is by determining what genes are common among all species, and assuming that luca must have had it as well. That method has determined about 30 genes, but not enough to give us a full picture of what luca really is. Another method is finding common genes in bacteria and archaea. That makes the search too wide with almost 11,000 genes to pull from. In order to narrow down the search, a few conditions were created. The gene could not have been transferred through LGT, meaning it had to be passed down through offspring. Secondly, it had to be present in at least 2 groups of bacteria or archaea. In the end, they were left with 355 genes that belonged to luca. Skeptics immediately pointed out that 355 genes are not enough to support life as we know it. The researchers that were pursuing this topic responded with the ideas that the research did not include genes that had been passed down through alternative methods such as viruses, that luca could have used more molecules that fill the function of lacking genes, and that biochemistry was much more primitive than what we know today, so the need for more complex genes were not necessary. In conclusion, luca was not only the origin of life, but its evolution into bacteria and archaea started the evolutionary process that leads us to life as we know it today. Thank you.
Hey guys, just so you know, it gets loud on their end when they unmute their speakers.
Opposition constructive.
Buzzer for you. So you don't have to yell or raise your voice at all. I know it's confusing, it gets loud. Okay, listen.
Hello everyone, I'm Jay. Today I want to talk about natural selection. Natural selection says that the environment will choose the species which the most adapt environment. But some species don't follow this rule. Take the giraffe for example. The giraffe have long neck and slender leg. And another species named okapi don't have long neck and slender leg. They are very different species based on natural selection. The environment will choose one of them to survive. But both of them are still alive now. So I think natural selection have some problem. Second, we know ancient climate is very different to now the climate now. And some ancient species are still alive now, like fossil crab. Based on natural selection, the environmental change will lead to the species dead or change, whatever the change is small or large. But fossil crab don't have any change in their body structure. So, body structure. During the environmental change in the millions of years, so I think the social crab doesn't control by the natural selection. So based on, thank you.
The fourth opposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, I'm Vincent Tai. I'm the opposition side of the evolution. The theory of natural selection says that survival of the fittest, but not making sense, but if all the creatures on the earth follow this rule, there will not be as many species nowadays. For example, there is a defect of the theory of nature selection. Giraffe. An animal lives in Africa with long neck for them to forage. But giraffe have a relative in biology, okapi. This kind of animal is very different with giraffe. They have short neck instead of a longer one. If the theory of nature selection is true, the evolution for each species will only have one best result to fit the environment. But while there are both long neck and short neck exist at the same time, it violates the theory of the nature selection. Theoretically, there will be only one species still remains on the earth. The long neck and short neck are totally upset. So I think the nature selection is just one occurrence. It doesn't feel any type of species that most suitable of the environment. Thank you.
The fourth proposition rebuttal.
Hey everyone. So our team firmly believes that evolution is true. No, wait. Yeah, evolution is true. So I would like to say some prebuttals for our side. You might state that the Lewis Pasteur experiment disproves luca. Then you're wrong. It's a theory, not a law. A theory, defined by dictionary, is a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. Well, this experiment doesn't prove luca to be wrong, because it's a theory, not a law. And if you're saying luca isn't the origin of life, then what is? The earliest evidence of life is dated to be 3.7 billion years ago. And it's a form of stromatolites, which are layers of sediments laid down by microbes. Then if luca isn't the origin of life, then what is? You're saying that luca isn't the origin of life, and something has to be created. So that is why our team believes that evolution is true, and your points do not stand. Thank you.
The fifth proposition, constructive.
So today I'm going to provide evidence of speciation and diversity. Speciation and biogeography. So speciation is the formation of new species over the course of evolution. Speciation may depend on different variables such as environment, food source, or natural predators. Now you may ask how speciation is made sure of. A piece of evidence, an example of speciation would be the existence of the Galapagos finches. Over a million years of evolution, each species of finch developed a specific beak for whatever food they intake the most. Some finches may have a long and thin beak to poke into plants without getting hurt, and others might adapt a hard, large beak to break open shells of nuts and seeds. Now, speaking of adaptation, this brings me to my second point, biogeography. Similar to speciation, biogeography occurs when a group within a species separates and develops their own unique characteristics. In other words, several pieces of evidence provides how a specific species of organism spreads throughout the world and develops their own characteristics. For example, research has shown that most mammals in Australia are marsupials. Reason being, Australia has been isolated from other countries for millions of years, and the competition with other non-marsupial mammals aren't as high. It does not just take a mass of mutations to prove evolution or to even create a different species. Just one slight event could prove the theory of evolution, and others might even take tens of millions of years just to change by slightly. And this is the speciation evolution is known for. Thank you.
The fifth opposition constructive.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arlene, and I'll be arguing for the team that thinks evolution is unfair. I'm going to talk about why common DNA and junk DNA cannot offer as a conclusive evidence for evolution. Some evolutionists think that similarities in DNA are evidence for evolution because it is common to all organisms. They claim that similar DNA structures in two different organisms prove common ancestors' existence, but this is not a direct evidence. Common DNA doesn't mean there is a common ancestor. It's just a theory, not a fact. In the genetic code, there is a lot of so-called junk DNA has been offered as evidence as well. Evolutionists say that in the evolution is messy and incomplete and inefficient. Therefore, our DNA included some sequences that don't do anything at all, and that's what this junk DNA is. However, researchers have found evidence suggests that junk DNA does perform essential functions such as repairing DNA and regulating DNA transcription and helping to fight disease. So what evolutionists say about junk DNA is incorrect. Junk DNA is not the junk. By all the above, I think evolution remains a theory rather than a fact. Thank you.
Fifth, opposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna and I'm skeptical of evolution. According to evolution theory, random mutation and natural selection can build complex organ one small mutational step at a time. Every random mutation requires generating new information in the genetic code of DNA. And here is the problem. Can the necessary information be generated gradually and step by step? Gradually and randomly. In 2000 and 2004, protein scientist Douglas X performed mutational sensitivity tests on enzyme in bacteria. Enzyme is kind of protein have long-chain amino acid that can fold into specific and stable shape to function. The test mutate the amino acid to understand whether they can still fold into stable shape and function properly. The research found that maybe only 1 in 10 to the power of 74 amino acid sequence is stable. This means the vast majority of protein cannot function in a living organism. In other experiment, the research team broke the gene required for synthesizing the amino acid tryptophan in E. coli. Although the bacteria can repair their gene by random mutation, it still needs 2 times to restore and cannot regain full function. This suggests that the information required for protein to function is too great to be generated. These 2 experiments prove that the complex organ cannot be built by small mutation gradually and randomly. Here is the reason I value evolution. Thanks for listening.
The fifth, proposition rebuttal.
Good morning, fellow debaters. I'm Emily, and today I will be arguing for the side supporting evolution. I'm going to start by giving the definition of speciation. Speciation is the evolutionary process by which population evolved to become distinct species. One example of this would be the bone structure of the feet and the development of primates. As seen in the diagram here, the oldest fossil of the feet were of the gibbon and the orangutan, 2 primates of the human. And as we know, their main habitats were the forests, and they traveled mostly between branches of trees. So their feet were longer and more stretched out, making it easier to grip and swing from one branch to another, which helps them develop better survival skills in the given area. Then, parts of the orangutan and gibbon species moved to the ground, and they went through the process of terrestrial quadrupedalism and began walking on all 4s. The bones in their feet became more defined, and the bones at the bottom grew larger for protection purposes. Later on, some of the chimpanzees and gorillas went through the process of bipedalism and starts to walk on 2 feet. The bone inside the feet became thicker and more tightly pressed together for optimal balance and stride. The thumb was also no longer pointing outwards because there was no need to grab things by foot anymore. In the end, 6 different foot structures and species were developed, and this is the work of speciation in evolution. Therefore, I strongly believe that evolution is factual.
The 6th proposition constructive.
Hello everyone. Today I will talk about fossils and how they support the theory of evolution. Fossils provide evidence that organisms from the past are different from those found today. Dating methods based on the natural radioactive decay is based on a comparison between the observed abundance of a naturally occurring radioactive isotope and its decay products using known decay rates. With radioactive dating, scientists are able to compare fossils from different ages and observe the effects of evolution. Another type of evidence for evolution is the presence of structures in organisms that share the same basic form. For example, the bones in the appendages of a human, dog, bird, and whale all share the same overall structure. This similarity results from the origin in the same appendages of a common ancestor, again, providing more evidence for evolution. This is why my team thinks evolution is fact.
The 6th opposition constructive.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica. I believe that Darwin's evolution theory is a fiction. According to his theory, species change gradually through several generations and pass their genes from parents to offspring. However, this theory cannot explain why species appear abundantly in a short time. And horizontal gene transfer might be the answer. Horizontal gene transfer is that gene spread from one species to the other. And the familiar case is the spread of antibiotic resistance. Horizontal gene transfer is the main mechanism for antibiotic resistance spread between different bacteria. Like it could be spread from Staphylococcus to Escherichia coli. Moreover, the origin of mitochondria is from formerly free-living prokaryotic bacteria taken one inside in the other in endosymbiosis. Based on this theory, we can certainly say that genes in eukaryotic cells are partially from other species. And under this circumstance, how do we find a common ancestor? In conclusion, species can obtain genes from other species and increase the diversity of genes. And this ability of spread DNA may cause the species change promptly and simultaneously. So it is clear that genes don't work as Darwin's thought, and evolution theory is a fiction. Thank you for listening.
The 6th opposition rebuttal.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sophia. I think Darwin's evolution is a fiction. First, in classic Darwin's evolution, there is the arising of variation from one creature to another. That was thought to occur incrementally in very slow stage, but by mutation in the genome. But humans work very fast. It violates this theory. Second, it can't prove that humans evolved from apes. However, a study points out that humans may harbor more than 100 genes from other organisms by horizontal gene transfer. Horizontal gene transfer is the passage of genetic material sideway from one species into another. For example, a kissing bug is an insect. When sucking blood, it starts in some of transposon, and the transposon moves from one species to another and become part of a heritable genome of the new species. In conclusion, horizontal gene transfer across species, so we don't know which part of gene came from which species, but we can be sure that the species genes are derived from different species, so Darwin's evolution is official. Thank you.
The proposition, conclusion, and summation.
Hi, I'm Meg, and I'm going to be using this time to give a conclusion of what the evolutionist fact side has said today. First off, we had Dara and Jonathan talking about natural selection. Dara mainly talked about pesticide resistance and genetic variation. Jonathan mainly talked about how RNA and DNA formed after the formation of cell membranes, providing more stable and confined conditions for formation of nucleotides. In the second round, Sean and Emily also talked about natural selection. Sean's main points were camouflage and mimicry, while Emily's were how evolution eliminates parts of redundant organs and change of webbed fingers and coccyx. In the third round, we had Brian and Amy talking about common ancestors. Brian's main points were homologous features provide strong evidence for common ancestry, and he talked about the similarities in bones from different types of species. Amy talked about how there is evidence of homologous structures which include vestigial structures. In the fourth round, we also talked about common ancestors. Hayden was the one to talk for that round. Hayden's main points were that Luca shows that all life as we know it is branched off from one singular organism. In the fifth round, we talked about speciation, diversity, and biogeography. Brandon's main points from that round were speciation and diversity, and Emily's main points were speciation and bone structure of feet. And for the sixth round, fossil records and reasoning, we had Zachary, who mainly talked about how fossil evidence allows scientists to observe the change between ancient and modern organisms, and how fossil evidence supports the existence of a common ancestor. So in summary, we believe that when all of these points are looked at together, they prove that evolution is fact.
The proposition rests. The seventh opposition constructive.
It's my pleasure to summarize the evolution is a fiction. And first, soil talk about the environment making human from 4-leg to 2-leg is unknown. So human evolving from egg is unscientific. And second, Ricky said about the bacteria flagellums is too complicated and too precious to apply to the theory of the evolution. And third, Camilla took the example about the invertebrate to vertebrate and fish to the reptiles, but said the absence of the transition fossil do not support the theory. And fourth, Jack said about in the same environment, there are two kinds of giraffe, long neck one and the short neck one. But to the theory, there will only be one species in the same time. Anna explained two experience about the mutation. So, and he's showing the about mutation, showing that animal having complex organisms that do not built by small mutation gradually and randomly. And next, Sophia pointed out that the horizon gene that do not refuse the idea of the species from one ancestor. So, for all these reasons, I suppose you to believe that the evolution is a fiction. Thank you.
Conclusion, and summation.
Good morning to honorable judges and members of our decision team. My name is Harho. I'm here to summarize our team arguments. First, we began with body structure of human and bacteria. We all know that environment can cause evolution, or still can find a reason that causes human walks on two legs instead of four. Besides, complex organs like flagellum from bacteria is also another doubtful point. Since flagellum is useless to bacteria, or it hasn't been invented. Any lack of transitional organs and species which are found from fossils can also support these statements. Later, we focus on the momentum of evolution, natural selection. Since it is the fundamental of the theory, we have found suspicious points from it. Our world won't have such a diversity of species if it really follows natural selection. And that is genetic structure and gene transfer. Without the common DNA sequence that are found in all organisms, which is called junk DNA. And we also found horizontal gene transfer, which points out that species can get DNA from either non-related or related species, making a genetic tree useless because every creature could be evolved from any other species. Combining those arguments from animals' body structure to horizontal gene transfer, our team strongly believes that Darwin's evolution theory is not a fact. To sum up, no matter how perfect or complete the theory seems like, there can still be many suspicious points for us to doubt. Therefore, we have to remind that science is generated by suspicion and discussion. We should never be satisfied by everything we have learned. And the above is my whole statement. Thank you, everyone.
We now conclude the structured part of the debate. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back. We're going
you say about deer mice can change their fur, the first color, and because of the change of the environment. So if I ask you about today, we'll put the mice into a purple environment, then will the mice become purple? Thank you.
The challenge is for Jonathan. Thank you.
So they know what's going on, so it's not just mine.
Hi. Yes. It is likely that the mice will adapt to the purple environment. Bye.
Okay, who's the next?
We have Brian coming in.
Okay, to answer the fourth opposition rebuttal, you asked that why is there both short-necked and long-necked giraffe existing in the modern world? Well, natural selection and evolution will only occur if the species is threatened to be extinct or they have to adapt to survive. But giraffe will evolve to long neck due to the fact that they can reach trees to eat better and also for their mating purposes. But shorter neck giraffe also have their advantages. For example, running faster and eating less food to survive. And so this explains why there is still short neck and long neck giraffes. Yeah.
Follow up? challenger.
Dara's coming over for a question.
Listen up.
I don't have a question. I'm answering. I don't remember which. I think it was the first rebuttal when we said apes have more muscles than humans. So why humans have less muscles? That's because our muscles have degenerated after our brains have become more complex. Because we don't need those muscles anymore after we have invented technologies and such to supplement instead.
Okay, do we have a reply? No, okay. Do we have a challenge? Okay, we have a reply. Vincent.
Oh, okay. You just said that the long neck and short neck, they both have advantage in different environment. But when giraffe and okapi, their ancestor, at that time is just one environment, and why each that evolved into two different kinds. Okay.
Okay, so there's your reply. Another challenge or comment?
I think the first rebuttal or the second rebuttal said that why did we lose fur, and that is unreasonable. However, we lost fur because we didn't need the fur anymore. So then, there was no purpose in us having fur. In our daily lives, we don't, need it, so that's why we didn't have it anymore.
Okay, good. We have a reply.
You mean that why humans lose fur? Because I think the evolution is related to the environment, but the Earth goes through many ice ages. If we lose our fur, we will be the humans will be in risk. So I think although the Earth goes through many ice ages, but the humans if lose their fur, I think it's unscientific.
Okay. So here is the answer. Another challenge? Comment?
Questions? Zachary?
Okay, we have a challenge again.
There's a challenge coming up. Listen.
I want to add about the riot. Right, yeah. And you said about the yucca, yes? And so what is the direct evidence about the yucca?
Luca.
Thank you.
Somebody get on camera so they know that we're responding.
Please hold on. He's coming.
Archaea and what? So you can, the direct evidence is you can find a lot of common genes between bacteria and archaea.
Can you say that again? Because maybe the origin life is not like the bacteria and archaea, or just like something more simpler, or not by the evolution.
Okay, let's comment.
Oh, was that a comment?
Wasn't clear. Next challenge or comment?
Any challenger questions? Come on down. Go ahead, we have time.
Okay. Wait. We have one challenger.
Please listen.
Okay. That's it.
I have a question. If the evolution is true, how to explain the evolution of species from cells to organisms? What is the evolution sequences of the organ system?
Are you asking any particular speaker? Which one?
No.
No.
Just anybody.
Okay, the question is addressed to the whole proposition team. Want to say it again?
Can we repeat the question, please, again?
How to explain the evolution of species from cells to organisms?
How true?
Explain
How to explain
evolution of species from cells to organisms.
Oh, okay. How to explain the process of evolution from cells to organisms. Okay, Sean's coming over.
So they don't just jump from single cell organisms to, and they don't jump from one generation. With one generation, they don't just instantly become a full large organism. It all started with single cells, and through many generations, like maybe the single cells started clumping together and can do multiple functions in the together. So it's still possible. It's just really slowly. It doesn't jump from one. It doesn't happen within one generation. Yeah.
Okay, another challenge, comments? Are you all satisfied with your opponent's statement?
We have one question here.
Okay.
Multiple times you mentioned how we don't have enough empirical evidence or transitional fossils. But how many do you count as enough? Because if you were to find one right now, would you keep asking for more between those, the one we find, and the other ones we already have? Because then it would just be a constant chase of finding more. And with how low a chance fossils are forming, can we really call that disproving evolution?
Can anybody have a quick answer to that? Anyone? So that was a good question.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, go ahead, Howard.
Is the Alan guy there?
Alan, yes. Alan, no, Alan is the judge downstairs, but we can call him up. Alan, please come up. Alan is the judge in the debate today. He's in another room.
Oh. Can you
Alan, please come up. Your old friend. It's looking for you.
Stay there, Howard.
Okay. What?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Alan, what's your Instagram?
Okay, Howard. Ask your question.
I asked. Alan, what is your Instagram?
My Instagram?
Yes.
serious? My Instagram, you serious?
Yes.
That's personal. You send email to me. I'll correct that. That's personal.
He'll email.
Okay.
Later.
Oh, good request. No corrective request.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We have an answer to that question. That's so funny. We have an answer? Okay. It's a deep question. So the opposition needs to think. If there are no other challenges, we will conclude today's debate. Okay, we have an answer to that question about.
We want to prove long times evolution, but not only prove short times evolutionary about transitional fossils. So that's all.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, let's conclude today's debate. I want to thank all the debaters. We have another question. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, come.
It's okay. Go ahead, Dr. Liu.
Yes, we have a challenger speaker.
I want to ask who answer Sophia's question. And how can the cell evolve to the organ? Because as the experiment I mentioned, the probability of successful mutation is too low to happen on evolutionary time scale. So, and during they have the mutate their gene, their protein will have no function, so they cannot survive. And how they can fix the mutate in their gene?
Okay. Can you answer that proposition?
They're currently meeting at the moment. She's asking about cells to organs. They have a response.
Can I ask how long the experiment was? Because like evolution is through millions of years, so in turn the chance of mutation will be higher. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's time that we move on. We need to take a group photo to mark this historical event. This is the 10th debate between our two schools. So, could speakers come to the